up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports with me, Sam Cardona, and thank you guys all for listening today. Welcome back. We were just on a 2-week hiatus. I was away on vacation, and before everybody roasts me for going away on vacation, it's my family's house in Martha's Vineyard, so we were in a place in which we own, so we weren't going around, sleeping in hotels, anything like that. But it was very fun, and it was nice and relaxing, and I had a very nice time, and I got a little bit tan. Don't know if you guys on YouTube can see that. Don't forget, guys, we're on YouTube. Heck yeah! The Girl Who Talks Sports is the name of the channel, and you can go subscribe and watch. If you are listening to this right now on a podcast app, you can go onto YouTube and, did I say watch on a podcast app? Whatever. If you're listening on a podcast app, you can go to YouTube and watch this episode and physically watch me record the episode instead of just listening to it if you feel like doing that. So that's an option that's available to you. Also, currently it is August 4th at around 2 p.m. We are in the middle of a tropical storm right now in New York City, so the lights may flicker on and off. They might go in and out, Wi-Fi might go out, but what's great about podcasts is you don't need Wi-Fi to record a podcast, you just need Wi-Fi to upload a podcast, and that's your wisdom for today. So that's what's going on, and we have a lot of stuff going on. Before we get into all that, gotta do my shameless plugs. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, whatever it is that you want to do. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Stitcher, anywhere that you get your podcast, give it a follow or subscribe, as well as on YouTube. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on notifications, like, comment, whatever you want to do. I very much appreciate it. Oh my god, I'm so hyper right now that I'm stumbling over my words. I have to slow down. Okay. And you can also leave an Apple Podcasts review. It's very helpful for the podcast, the more reviews it gets. So thank you for anybody who has already done that, and thank you for anybody who will do that. All right, people. Let's hop into this, shall we? All right, so there's a lot of things that have been happening since the last time we spoke, or the last time you listened to me speak, which... Anyway, so there's been a lot of things, and with a lot of things happening, I figured we can go through whoa, I don't know if you saw that, but the lights just completely turned off, so that was a little scary. We're gonna go in and see, we're just gonna start listing off everything that is happening that we don't really need to discuss in depth, and since I have a few things here, I decided I want to test myself. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna time myself and see if I can get you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nuggets of news in a minute. I'm going to see if I can do it and give you a decent amount of information, and I just want to see if I could just shoot it all out to you in a minute, and we're going to see if I can do it. I'm going to set a timer on my phone here, and I'll let you know the time when we finish it up. So, let's catch ourselves up to speed, all right? I'm going to start my timer. Let's see if we can do this. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Washington will now be considered the Washington football team. They are no longer considered the Washington Redskins, and this season they will be considered the Washington football team through the entire season. Will there be an NFL season this year? I don't know. We'll figure it out, and we might talk about it later. And we'll figure out what their name will be later on. Seattle now has a hockey team. The NHL created another hockey team. They are now the Seattle Kraken. The logo is super awesome. You should check it out. Mike Tyson is coming out of retirement to fight Roy Jones Jr. on September 12th. The pay-per-view is $50, which is insane, but they are all over 50 years old, so I guess it makes sense. So that'll be an interesting thing that we will be discussing. Alex Smith is now played for 4 straight days with the Washington football team. After his leg injury back in 2018, he had 17 surgeries on it and almost died, which is crazy. Also, finally, The Rock has bought the XFL for $15 million, so we might get the XFL next year. All right. 56-61. Heck yeah, people, we did it. So that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, so you're welcome. Um, so that's everything that basically has happened over the past 2 weeks that we missed out on because I was asleep on a beach. Um, so that's everything that's going on. Pretty crazy. Just like a little side note, since we're now just gonna slow it down for a second. The Mike Tyson thing, I'm kind of really excited for it. I'm really stoked to see like two middle-aged men fight each other, but also have been extremely good fighters in their past. I think it's going to be just some stellar content. Am I gonna pay $50 for it? I have no idea. Maybe I'll mooch off of somebody else who has already purchased it. So we'll discuss that though. Oh my god, that's in like a little over a month. Can you believe that we're in August already? I am perplexed. Just absolutely perplexed with the fact that we've been just in a pandemic for the last 5 months basically. And I mean, apart from me going away for these past 2 weeks, I mean, we really didn't even go anywhere. We walked down the street to a beach that's very secluded, went there, and then came back to our house. Walked into town every once in a while just to get food and whatever, but that's really it. So the fact that I was outside that for that amount of time in those 2 weeks, I probably have been outside more than the past previous 4 months, which is crazy to think about. Anyway, we have to get into our first segment of today's show, and my favorite segment on today's show, a tea time. Tea Time is my favorite segment on the show because we delve into the hot, steamy gossip of the sports world, and this week, boy, is it spicy. Just on a little quick side note for Tea Time, my best friend for my birthday bought me a mug that said it's MFing tea time. It is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is upstairs. It's sitting in my room. I don't even want to drink out of it because it's so cute. And she got it for me so that I could have it for tea time. It's upstairs right now. I don't have it. Maybe I'll bring it on next week. But it does have a profanity on it because what's the fun in that without it? Anyway, the tea time for this week is something that if you haven't heard about it, I mean, it has been constantly spoken about since it happened, and it is the fact that Joe Kelly, the Dodgers pitcher, threw a pitch at a Houston Astro, Alex Bregman, and he basically almost killed him and then mocked Carlos Correa, and there's a lot of different sides to this whole thing, but basically the count was 3-0, like it was very, very much so that the next pitch would probably be a strike, but instead Joe Kelly threw a wild pitch, whether or not it was intentional or non-intentional. He threw a fastball at Alex Bregman's head, and it was very, very close to hitting him, possibly injuring him. And obviously, this is because of the fact that the Houston Astros have basically been caught cheating, and the rest of the MLB is very upset. And honestly, very, very much, what's the word? This is god dang it. What is that word? That's like it's not okay. But oh my god, I'm struggling. Anyway, basically, the MLB is upset. Well, not the MLB. The MLB players and the coaches and everything, because the commissioner did not do anything to the players of the 2017 Astros team. We've spoken many, many times about what went on with the Astros and the 2017 World Series. Previous to that World Series getting won, they were banging on trash cans and using buzzers and yada, yada, yada. Again, we've spoken about it many times. I'm sure many of you already understand the situation. So, Joe Kelly throws his fastball at his head. People start getting mad. And, Joe Kelly also said some choice words to Carlos Correa and then made the infamous face. He gave him the little lip out and the pouty face, like, oh, you're gonna cry. And that is turned into a major meme on the internet. Honestly, it's a good meme. Not gonna lie, it's a good meme. But let me just say something really quick. Should a team be cheating? Should a team be cheating in any sort of way to then get them to a World Series and then not get consequences for it? No. Should you be throwing a 96-mile-per-hour fastball at somebody's head? No. Quit being babies, all right? Quit being babies. It is so immature. Extremely immature. The lights are flickering again. It's so, like, literally, I understand that these guys are upset. I totally get it. And the fact that they have that World Series with the little asterisk on it, I get it. The fact that they haven't been in any way penalized for what they did. And now, all of a sudden, they can get, like, after cheating, now you can actually get, like, the players can get suspended or something like that, because technically what they're saying, what the argument is, the MLB, they basically penalized management because players are just taking orders. That is the whole thing behind it. But of course, the whole idea that a player could say, like, hey, that's not right, da 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 da. So now apparently it's in the rule book that you can get consequences for cheating if you're a player. And now people are even more upset because Joe Kelly has been suspended for 8 games for doing this, which technically is 13% of the schedule because the MLB is only playing 60 games this year. So everybody is just, like, off their mind. He also appealed the suspension. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know. I doubt that it's going to get appealed because he did throw a fastball probably on purpose at this guy's head and then mocked and used profanity towards another player. Also cleared the benches, which then the Houston Astros manager got a fine for because clearing the benches and getting into a scuffle is against COVID protocols because you're not socially distancing from one another. So it is a huge mess. It is insane. The manager for the Dodgers also has a 1-game suspension, which he will not appeal, and he has already served. It is just very funny because Joe Kelly. Okay, so here's the thing with Joe Kelly. Coming from me, I have my Yankee shirt on today. Joe Kelly used to play for the Boston Red Sox, and I distinctly remember him being an instigator in a fight with the Yankees. Like, there was something that happened. I think Joe Kelly, actually, it might have been a wild pitch, honestly. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe it was Joe Kelly who threw a pitch at Tyler Wade, who is no longer a Yankee, but they got into a fight, cleared the entire benches. This was last year, or 2 years ago. I was in college, so it must have been 2 years ago. And they basically were fighting. The hilarious thing was that Aaron Judge was just being, like, the peacemaker, and that man is, like, 7 feet tall, so he was just, like, holding smaller people apart from each other. It's just, I'm pretty sure that was Joe Kelly who did that. And I remember when I heard about this whole thing, I was like, I think he's just an instigator. I think that's just what he does. But then he also said that he's like, oh, my aim is not that great. Dude, you're a professional baseball pitcher. Think you should work on that if you're gonna have wild pitches like that, hitting guys wearing white and orange uniforms. That's a interesting accuracy issue to have. But he also has the video of him, which comes from his personal Twitter or his personal Instagram, I think. He basically, during this whole quarantine situation, he was at his house and he was practicing in his backyard with this huge baseball net, like huge net to be throwing a pitch into. And he was videotaping himself and he threw the ball and it missed the net by like probably a couple inches and it went straight through the window of his house, or maybe it was like his parents' house or something. It was actually pretty funny, but I remember that was Joe Kelly, and I remember him going into his house and like his window was just shattered with the ball there. Like he threw a 98-mile-per-hour fastball at this window. So if he was working on his accuracy, then it's very obvious that he didn't practice enough and that his accuracy is still off. But oh my god. This whole thing is so crazy. Because, and then when I heard that he was suspended for 8 games, I mean, granted, the man threw basically a bullet at this guy's head. If he didn't wear a helmet, he probably just would have straight up either had a major concussion or some brain damage, would have died, like, could have caused some real damage. But he didn't. Like, Alex Bregman is fine. It's just the idea that, they weren't disciplined. They weren't disciplined for their actions, whether or not they were under orders or not. I get it. I totally get it. And they're cheaters. The Houston Astros are cheaters. The Boston Red Sox are also cheaters. That's irrelevant. But we just discussed that too. But should we be throwing hard objects at people's heads? That's a very immature thing to do. Children know better. Children know. I could guarantee you, if you ask a 6-year-old kid, hey, should you cheat on things? Should you cheat on your test? Should you cheat in a game? They probably will tell you no. Will they want to? Sure, probably. But they know better than that. They know they're not supposed to. And then also, if you tell a kid, hey, are you supposed to kick him? Are you supposed to punch him or throw something at his head? They probably will say, like, well, I'd sure like to, but they know better than that. And those are children. So they're not even being children, they're being babies, because they obviously that their emotions are getting the better of them. Do you guys think that I'm wrong? I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but again, I get it. I get that they're upset. But should you be throwing things at their heads? No. Is this going to continue on? Probably. It's going to happen for the rest of the year, if not, I mean, I don't even know. We're going to discuss next the rest of the baseball season. Don't get me wrong, because there's crazy things going on with that too. But this whole thing, and then the fact that he gets suspended, it's the level of fairness is very unbalanced. Very unbalanced. I think that this should get situated out. But I guess what their whole thing that they're fixing is that now if you cheat, you're gonna get in trouble. So now it's okay. It's fine now. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Anyway, so that's what's going on in the MLB. And when that happened, I was actually like, oh dang, that's gonna be a good tea time. That's gonna be a good tea time for when we return to the podcast. So I was very excited to discuss this because it is just wild. Just super wild. Alright, so like I said, we are going to discuss the situation just overall in baseball right now with COVID and what's going on and everything like that. And I have a lot of thoughts about things that are going on. So there's been an outbreak of COVID-19 in the the Major League Baseball teams. So what happened is that the Cardinals and the Marlins are both severely infected with corona. 20 people just in their traveling party for the Marlins are sick, as well as 18 of their players, which is like a lot of people to be sick. And they have had to revamp the entire schedule in order for people to play, and then who has to isolate and who was exposed to them at this point in time when they probably had it. And then now the Cardinals. 13 of their people in general have tested positive. 7 of them are players. So in my head, I'm like, okay, now there's an outbreak. And honestly, it was bound to happen. If they thought that it wasn't, they're just absolutely just so stupid to think that this wouldn't happen. You're traveling around, you're going to different places, you're in contact with people. People are not following the guidelines that they are told to, such as spitting all over the place, because that's extremely gross. Because they're not supposed to be doing that to begin with, as well as high fives, butt slaps, whatever it is. There's a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing that they are doing. And again, Derek Jeter, my man, that's my guy. But he's saying that with the Marlins, like, they just got a bit of bad luck. Like, they haven't been gallivanting around. I saw a tweet for some reason, though, that he was like, yeah, no, the only reason why our players would go out would be, like, to get milk or something, or get coffee. And I'm like, milk is a very specific thing. Why? Why are they going out to get milk? But anyway. So what I discovered was that I was like, okay, whoa, I just smacked my mic. I talk way too much with my hands. I have to stop. I have to sit on my hands. Oh my God. So, forget it. I'm going to talk with my hands anyway. Derek Jeter, so he's saying, like, yeah, like, these guys have not been gallivanting around. They've been doing this, and that. But what I've found out is that the MLB gave out these pamphlets, or, like, not pamphlets, but, like, these manuals, over 100 pages, I think, like, 130 pages or something like that, regarding COVID guidelines and all this stuff that they were supposed to be reading. And in those 100 and whatever amount of pages, there was not one paragraph that talked about what to do if an outbreak comes. Nobody wrote anything down on, like, this is the protocol that we have to follow if somebody gets sick. Why didn't anybody do that? Isn't that, like, the most important part of this all? Yes, obviously, making sure that nobody gets it. But did you really think that your plan was that foolproof that nobody was going to get sick? I just, like, does your brain work? Do you know how to do things? Like, why is there no protocol? So there's no protocol. People are sick. Teams are sick. I mean, the Marlins are just completely we just got to keep them in Florida. Florida and the whole South is just struggling immensely with COVID right now. And they're still, they don't know what to do. And let me tell you, I have the solution. You're not going to be happy to hear it, but I have the solution, and it's to stop playing baseball. Now, before you start yelling at me, I would love nothing more than for sports to be here for good and to not bounce back or anything like that. I was so happy to see baseball on my screen. I was thrilled. It was exciting. It was refreshing. I was like, oh, I missed being bored watching sports. Like, that, just, I love it. I love it so much. Basketball, too. I mean, like, just have a basketball game on in the background. You don't even have to pay attention. It's just, like, the squeaks and the dribbling of the ball. It's lovely. Love it. Absolutely love it. And this is a sports podcast. Like, I'm not, I'm not biased here in the fact that I want sports to happen. I just think that for the benefit of people and for the benefit of the world and America, sports happening right now are just... Soccer came back in, like... Well, I think it came back here too, but, like, in general, soccer came back because all those other countries are doing much better than us. So, if we just stopped doing it... And again, I don't want it to stop. It just seems like the only thing that will help this is that if people stop playing sports, and I know that there's people that have families to support, and there's people who are working, within the leagues. I mean, I worked in sports right now. I'm struggling. This is my livelihood too. So, it's not going to help anything. Doing this is not going to help anything. So unfortunately, that's what's going on right now in the MLB. People are starting to opt out, including Lorenzo Cain, Giannis Cespedes, which is like one of the biggest things right now is that Cespedes opted out of the season. Right now, I believe Thursday, the 6th of August, is the last day that you can opt out for the NFL season. After that, you're not allowed to. So there's the thing is that, like, if you don't want to play, then you don't have to play, and I'm glad that there's that option. But, like, yeah, I know some of these guys want to play, which is great, and I want them to play. I really do. Oh my god, I would love nothing more for things to go back to normal, but we're not in a normal right now. We're in a pandemic. And if sports is going to make it worse, then I just don't think that we're ready for it. NFL, the NFL season, I'm frightened. Seriously, very frightened to see what's going to be happening with this upcoming season. And that is, like, I'm a football nut. I love nothing more than football. Like, baseball, basketball, I'll watch it if it's on, really. But football, I don't miss. I really don't. And I'm so invested, and you guys know that. I'm just fully immersed in football all the time. I'm so scared that if they start playing football, this is a contact sport. In baseball, they're literally social distancing from one another on that field. They're all spread out, apart from the catcher and the batter. And the football is so contact. It's a contact sport. So, as I'm spitting all over the place, but it's okay, because this is my mic, nobody else uses it. I just, like, it's this whole COVID thing. I just don't know how playing these sports is going to help unless you get put into a bubble and the rules are so strict inside this bubble and that people aren't allowed to leave, people aren't allowed to come in, and that's just the bottom line, and it sucks. It really does. But I just can't think of anything else that's going to work right now. Anything effective, like super effective, that's going to work. So that's what's going on. And whether you agree with me or not, I'm sorry. Again, would I love for sports to be back? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I'm repeating myself at this point, but I have to reiterate for people who are probably going to come at me and be like, oh, like, you just want sports to just be gone for, like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying for the safety of the players, for the safety of the staff, for the safety of people involved in all this. It's just, at this point, so many people are getting sick that, like, God forbid they become in contact or someone in there dies or something awful happens or they give it to somebody else who can then, it's the chain reaction that's really, really worrying to me. So anyway, I don't want to depress anybody else, but we have more depressing things to talk about, but it's important to discuss. So we're going to get into that next. We're going to do our segments for the rest of the show. Our next segment is going to be our Let's Talk About It segment, and I've already partially discussed this on my Twitter. If you followed on Twitter, I made a pretty long Twitter thread about it. But this week we're going to talk about the Washington football team's sexual harassment allegations. And I think that as much as, you know, maybe you're like, oh, she's going to talk about this, skip over it if you don't want to listen to it, honestly. But it has to be discussed and it has to be put out into the world. And for someone like me who is a woman in sports who has had certain things happen to her in terms of verbal abuse and even sexual harassment, like, it's happened to almost every single one of us. So the fact that I'm going to discuss this is, yeah, like, maybe you don't want to listen to it. Sorry, we're going to talk about it. It's my podcast. I can do what I want. So, the Washington football team, 15 former female employees and 2 journalists have accused team staffers of harassment and verbal abuse in the workplace, which is just great. Fantastic. 2 men specifically who were big names that made it, there was a third guy too, who I forgot to write down his name, but Richard Mann II, who is a, oh dang, I forgot what his position is. Well, he doesn't have it anymore because he got fired. So, Richard Mann II, the team's assistant director of pro personnel, he made some very inappropriate comments and sexual comments to employees over text messages. So I decided they said that there were text screenshots, and in the CNN article that I had just referenced when I looked up who he was, they didn't have those screenshots in the article. I decided to look them up, and they are in fact very inappropriate. And what I noticed was I saw somebody, I believe his name was Alex Tran, was the person who posted them on Twitter. I don't know who that person is, and again, maybe these aren't these screenshots. These are just what I found. The whole thing is that the other side of these text messages are this woman who's getting these sexual comments directed at her, and people are like, well, she's going along with it. That doesn't mean that she's getting sexually harassed. Let me explain something to you really quick. All right? I don't think certain people understand that when a man maybe, or anybody, is making some sort of comment towards you that makes you uncomfortable, a lot of times you're not going to be like, hey, don't say that to me. Sometimes you will, obviously. But if you're in a professional work position and somebody says something to you, you're not going to straight up say that to someone because you work with them every single day. A lot of times you try to just diffuse the situation, go, haha, thanks, or something along those lines. That's your first, a lot of times women's first instincts is just diffuse the situation and get out of there. Don't insult them, which is awful, but that's just the way it is. So in these text messages, a lot of these comments, which are from men, I noticed, they were saying like, oh, well, she's going along with it. Like, there's nothing wrong here. They're just flirting, blah, 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 this and that. You don't get it. You don't get it. Women just do that all the time. Men will constantly hit on that. He's literally saying in these text messages, if you want to look them up, I suggest doing that to read them if you're curious about it. He basically is like, oh, I want to touch your butt. And she's like, yeah, no, don't do that. And he's like, why? I just want to squeeze it. Like, who says that to somebody else? That's so weird. Especially if you're like a higher up speaking to an employee that's below you. So there was that whole situation. And so I just need to make that very clear, though, that just because it looks like somebody's going along with somebody, yeah, no, don't do that. Then there was Larry Michael, who is a play-by-play announcer, or was. He retired, and nobody said, like, before this whole thing came out, like, the whole thing was that people were like, oh my god, people are getting fired, people are retiring just out of nowhere, something's wrong. And then what came up was the fact that 15 of these women came out and said what they had to say. Also, this is 15 women that said something. Just doesn't mean that it was just those 15 women. Just want to throw it out there. Yep. Okay. So, Larry Michael, he said some comments about a college intern about the way that she looked. And, again, I couldn't find exactly what he said, but it prompted him to retire from his job. So that should just be enough for you. And then there was a last guy who I forgot to write down his name. I forgot what his name was. But anyway, he also got fired for sexual harassment and verbal abuse. So I just want to say, and I've said it in my Twitter thread, again, it's on the TGWTS podcast Twitter. Basically, this happens every single day. It really does. And it's not something that's going to go away, apparently. And instead of teaching women how to maybe diffuse a situation or how to make sure that they don't make somebody mad in case they say something to them, we should probably be teaching the people who are spewing out these comments and these possible actions to not do that. And that's just the bottom line. And I know I'm on a soapbox right now, and I know this is a sports podcast and people maybe come here to get away from some things. But with a platform, I just feel that as a woman in sports who has experienced this before, that this is something that needs to be discussed. So, again, and I saw several articles from women that I see on TV, for women that I follow on Twitter, from people that are just, I just see all the time doing what I'm doing and doing what I aspire to be. And them coming out and saying, like, if you think that it's just these women, you're wrong. Because it's not. It's a lot. It's a lot of women who are put in these situations. And again, don't say something to maybe a higher up, because they'll lose their jobs. And it won't be the men who lose their jobs. It'll be the women who speak up and say something about it. So, again, I guess I don't want to get too far into this, even though I kind of already am, but it's not, I don't think that a lot of people understand what it feels like to get, like, a comment thrown at you that might make you feel uncomfortable, and then them saying, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that, or I'm just trying to be polite, or I'm just trying to be nice. And then when you come out and say, like, well, that makes me uncomfortable and I don't like that and please stop speaking to me, then they become offended and then they get nasty. And again, that's why women try to diffuse situations instead of confrontation, because it's just easier. It's just easier just to walk away. And unfortunately, doing that does not teach the person who is verbally abusing you or sexually harassing you the lesson that they need to be learned. And that's just the bottom line. So, I think at this point, I'm going to be continuously repeating myself with information that maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't. But I would highly suggest educating yourself and making sure that maybe as a man, maybe you're someone who's like, I didn't know that this was something that happened. If you have a friend in the business who's a woman, or you have a family member or anything, or if you just reach out, you can reach out to me if you really want to. Ask people, what can I do to assist you? And I saw just a really quick thing before we wrap this conversation up. I follow a sports writer, and her name is Charlotte Wilder. I've been following her forever. She's a lovely person. I talk to her on Twitter all the time. She's so nice. And she basically posted a DM when this whole thing was going down. She posted a DM and said that a guy said to her that he is part of the hiring process of, hiring people to come on to whatever team or media outlet, whatever it is. And he said, a lot of times these women are extremely qualified and I want to hire them, but I know that the environment that they'll be put in is detrimental to them. And she said, I should pull it up, but basically what she said was, so you're going to stop a woman from getting hired for a job that she's qualified for because a man might sexually harass her. And that's what's the problem with that, is that it shouldn't be the woman that gets, the short end of the stick there. It should be the man that's doing that to her, or a woman. Or, the other way around. It could be the other way around. And I'm not just saying that, but, women can sexually harass a man just as easily. It just so happens that in this field, a lot of times it's the man that does it to the woman. So the fact that the guys would say, oh, well, I don't want to hire her because she might get sexually harassed, that's the problem. That it should be the woman who gets the job, and if that happens, the man is the one or the person is the one that experiences the consequences for what they did. So that's that on that. So again, if you want to educate yourself, you can reach out to me, reach out to anybody that you know, that if you want to learn, if you want to make sure that you're not the one doing it, or maybe people are doing it and they don't even think that they're doing it, or if you want to make sure that you can become some sort of ally to a woman, we appreciate that. I would very much appreciate that. But it's again something that needs to be discussed, and something that needs to have more light shine on the subject. And again, that's why I wanted to talk about it today, and that's what we wanted to talk about today. So we talked about it, and that's all that I'm gonna say about that. All right, so we've been pretty loom and gloom for these past couple minutes. So now we're going to get into our tweet of the week. Our tweet of the week this week is something I saw last night. It's actually I quoted the tweet on my podcast Twitter because it was just, oh my god, but I had to give it to him because it's a stellar tweet. It really is. So yesterday was Tom Brady's birthday. He turned 43 years old. Happy birthday, Thomas. I hope you retire after this year. So our man Michael Strahan, who is a lovely human being it seems, tweeted at Tom Brady and said, "Happy birthday, Tom Brady. Enjoy the day, my brother." Yes, I had to use this photo again, and it's a photo of Michael Strahan doing this, and Tom Brady's laying down in the backfield of him, and obviously it's insinuating that he was just sacked by Michael Strahan. But that's not the tweet of the week, unfortunately. It would have been if Tom Brady didn't come back with this clap back. So this is what Tom Brady said to Michael Strahan's tweet. He said, "Thanks, Mike. Guess we'll have to run it back on a football field where I still go to work every day." Oh my god, the audacity of this man. I can't. Oh my god, I hate how good he is at Twitter. I really do. I despise him, but I have to give him props. It is just incredible. Incredible. So our tweet of the week goes to Mr. Tom Brady. I feel like he has gotten our tweet of the week in the past because he is that good at tweeting things, but since it was his birthday, that's your birthday present from me, Tom, is that you are our tweet of the week this week. Happy 43. Please retire. Thank you. Anyway, so that's our tweet of the week this week. So now we are just going to get into our feel-good stories before we wrap up our show today. So we have 2 feel-good stories this week, because we got to make up for our lost time that we had on our mini hiatus. So, going off of our discussion that we just had about the Washington football team and their sexual harassment allegations, so because this guy, Larry Michael, retired from being the play-by-play announcer for the Washington football team, it is now going to a lovely lady named Julie Donaldson. She is now the vice president of media and the radio voice for the Washington football team. She has been involved in the Washington media for quite some time now. And I actually happen to know Julie Donaldson back when I used to work for the Olympics a few years ago. And she was one of our talent, and I was a wardrobe coordinator, so I used to dress her, and she was a lovely human being, and we got her cupcakes on her birthday and everything. She is so wonderful, so good at her job, very, very good, has been, again, involved in the Washington football team's whole media outlet for a very long time on NBC Sports, so I think that this is very, very much well-deserved for her, and I just want to say congratulations to Julie for this amazing opportunity that was given to her at the expense of something so awful. And our second feel-good story of the week this week is the fact that Russell Wilson and Ciara had their baby. Well, Ciara had the baby. Russell Wilson was there. So they had a baby boy. His name is Win. Like W-I-N, Win Harrison Wilson is his name. If you want to throw it out there that your son's name is Win, go for it, sir. I mean, honestly, you are unproblematic, and do you. If you want to name your kid Win, go for it. Good for you, Russell Wilson. Good for you, Ciara. I was so happy to see I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, so cute. I love babies. Anyway, so that is everything that I believe we had to discuss today. A lot of things, a lot of serious things, and thank you guys all if you listened to my whole rant there, because it is very much important to me to discuss. So I appreciate you guys very, very much for listening to that and for listening to the rest of the episode. You guys made it to the end. So don't forget to follow, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Stitcher, wherever it is that you get your podcast from. Leave an Apple Podcast review or a review wherever it is that you can leave a review. That would be fantastic for me. Give a subscribe and turn on notifications and like and comment on YouTube. Thank you. The Girl Who Talks Sports is the name of my YouTube channel. And give the podcast a follow on Twitter. TGWTS Podcast for updates on the show, funny tweets like Tom Brady just owning Michael Strahan, and stuff like that. And that is going to do it for our show. I hope you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day. Stay safe, stay disinfected, wear a mask, and I will see you guys all next week. We are back into the swing of things. Bye!